Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your main man, Caliboy Jones, and I'm standing outside my friendly Subway where you gotta eat fresh all the time. Now listen, I'm all for saving those things that have been around for a long time. But the thing that gets me the most is when people go way too far overboard. So if you've been watching the news and you've seen that the Notre Dame Cathedral, caught fire on Monday, this rich man, now you can't tell people what to do with their money, how to spend their money, none of that stuff. But this guy donated, a billionaire, donated $130 million to rebuild. Now, here's the craziest thing. The wood that they used back in the 13th century, you're not going to find that kind of wood like that anymore. And the crazy thing about it, you can't tell people how to do their money, like I said. But if you was going to spend or give away $130 million, you know how many people across the world in slums in Africa, United States, UK, Australia, that could have used that money if you want to really help somebody? Now, don't get me wrong. They need to preserve it, however they need to. But 130 million, man, I'm just thinking about, like, we have so many homeless people all over the world. If you want to be a blessing to somebody, putting it into a building that's going to one day probably catch fire, maybe the whole thing gonna burn down. Again, I'm not saying it will, but it can happen. But you can change lives with $130 million. Check this video out and I'll be right back.
أعوذ بالشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالشيطان الرجيم.
You see that. So if y'all got Snapchat, you can see what I'm seeing. And I just inside recorded so I can add it to my video so y'all can see it just in case you haven't seen it. And I'm not one to bash anybody about what they're doing. It's a good thing in a way for him. That's what he felt like he wanted to do with his money. But if you really want to be a blessing to somebody, why don't you just donate it to the people around the world that can use it a lot more than that cathedral? I don't care what nobody say. It's just my opinion. Now, some of y'all might agree with me. So, when you think about it, if you had $130 million to give away, would you give it to rebuild that building that's been around for 800 years? Or would you really help the people that can really use $130 million? Hey, man, y'all already know what it is. It's Caliboy Jones, man. I'm going to speak my mind, and that's just the way it is. You heard me? Hey, it's Talk About It Tuesday. Don't forget to join the podcast going down tonight.